Awesome. So again, my name is Jen Chaney. I have our president and CEO, Margaret Haynes, joining me today. Margaret, would you mind just brief introduction to our listeners? Although I'm a lot of our listeners watch these on a regular basis, so I'm sure like we know who Margaret is. For maybe some of our newbies, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Thank you for the opportunity to join you on this call. And my name is Margaret Haynes. Yes, I'm CEO and president. Been with the company now, in my 13th year. So I started in 2011 and just love getting up and coming to work every day. It's a great team to work with and a great brand to be associated with. So I'm happy to be here today.
And thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a little list here of things that I want to cover, but I think hot off the press, you and I are just got back from our annual conference. This year it was in Orlando. We changed locations every year, but what an absolutely awesome event. I will admit it was my first home improvement attending in person, although I've been with the company for 4 years. There was a little thing called COVID, in between when I started and now. So anyway, would you mind just giving, I know it's going to be hard to do, but just for our listeners who are interested in franchising with Right at Home, just kind of a recap of some of the awesome, if you can choose some highlights. What is the reason why a franchise owner would want to come to home improvement, which I can attest to our franchise owners want to be there. That is like the place to be, and an opportunity and an event that you don't want to miss as a franchise owner. But just if you can, just kind of recap what the week was like for you.
Yeah, it's such an amazing event. So Home Improvement is the annual conference where we bring together our global network. So it's franchise owners in the US, but it's also our international master licensees. We operate in 6 other countries. They typically will bring with them some staff members and or also some of their own franchise owners that will make the trip. So we had people from Canada and UK and Ireland and the Netherlands and Australia. And then it's also an opportunity for offices to bring some of their office staff. And this year, not only was it our largest annual meeting ever in our brand in terms of attendance, but it also had the largest contingency also coming from office staff members, which is so wonderful to see because it really gives not only the franchise owners, they know they're part of a global system. And that's part of why you get into a franchise is to be able to be in business with other people that are walking in your shoes every day, but not in business by yourself. And so it's such a wonderful time to share best practices. And that's really what home improvement is all about. But office staff get to come and realize, oh my gosh, I am really part of this global brand, something bigger than maybe what they recognize in just the local office that they are associated with. But the key goal of home improvement is a time to come together, share best practices, make new friendships and build new relationships, as well as have fun with the relationships that already have been established with other owners in the network. We celebrate, we, recharge our batteries. It's just a wonderful time to be able to work on your business versus in the business and learning new ways of thinking, new ways to use systems and tools and processes, but also to talk about where are we going as a network and what does the strategy look like? And just building a lot of excitement around our mission and remembering why we're in this business, why we do what we do, and walking away just re-energized around the impact that we can each have in our own special way, regardless of what our role is across the brand.
Okay. We had a question come in as you were talking. What type of sessions do you have for office staff?
Yeah, so we take the entire agenda for those 3 days, and we will break down to what audiences it would make most sense for. A great example is we do what we call solution rooms, and we break it up into solution rooms that are tied to different franchise owners based on how long they've been running their business. And then there's a solution room specifically for office staff, where they get to come in and talk about, okay, what are challenges that you're facing? And then everybody around the table starts brainstorming about your challenge, or what is a best practice that you have that you can help others that are maybe facing a challenge that you've already been there, done that, figured out a way to work through it. So that's one great example. But then we also have lots of sessions around caregiver recruitment and retention. So we know that that is certainly a challenge that many offices are facing. And we know that it's a math problem. I talked about it from the main stage of saying we are going to be having way more demand, more clients that can benefit from our services than we will have the workforce. It's a pure math problem in terms of our aging population. So we have to constantly think about how can those caregivers that are out there, we want them to want to be associated with the Right at Home brand in their local market versus working for any of those other brands that might be out there. So how do you attract and retain those caregivers that are going to allow you to ultimately fulfill that mission and actually build your business and be able to provide quality care to those clients that you want to serve?
Okay, got it. I was making some notes as you were talking, a couple of things that came to mind. So I'm gonna kind of shift gears a little bit. This is an FAQ that we get quite often on the franchise development team. That Right at Home is an owner-operator business model. When you first start in this business, right out of the gate, you can't be an absentee owner. You can't hire, a manager right out of the gate to run your business. I want to unpack the why behind that, because it's something that we get asked all the time. Well, I've got somebody fantastic who can run it for me. Why do I have to be the one to run my business? Especially, initially right out of the gate. Eventually, one day, someday, perhaps you can transition to that. But why do there's a why behind it, not just that's, what we say goes, that's a rule. There's most definitely a why behind that. Can you explain that a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah. So it's not just because, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I've used that, I think, as a mom with my kids when they ask why. I'm like, well, just because,
Yep.
I finally just kind of land on that. No, the reason why it's so important to be active in the business. And like you said, Jen, right out of the gate, eventually as your business matures and you build a solid team within the office to help run the day-to-day operations, and you can start to focus on it versus in it. But this is such a relationship-based business. And when you're first getting started, it's so important for that owner to be out there in the community and really explaining their why in terms of why they got into this business, because it's not a transactional business. Whereas, there's many business concepts out there where it's very transactional. I go in, I get my hamburger and I walk out, or, I jump in the car and they take me to the airport and then I'm done with that Uber driver or that Lyft driver. Very transactional. This isn't. This is a very personal business where you're going to be making an incredible impact on not only that client that is needing some assistance as they're aging, but it's also the family members that are either relying on you to be their eyes and ears and help give them that peace of mind, because most family members aren't right there where the client is located. Or if they are, you're still allowing that family member to be the family member and not have to be the caregiver. So relationships are so incredibly important. And so starting that off correctly and also building the culture within your business is really something that an owner needs to do and set that solid foundation that allows that business to grow.
Okay. Got it. No, thank you for that. Second thing, another thing that I wrote down here is that, and one thing that I'm very proud of here at Right at Home, and that we talk about with anybody interested in franchising with Right at Home, you will never hear any of us say, this is going to be so easy. Okay. Just mark my words. We will never say that to you if you're interested in franchising with Right at Home. But I think that's the case in any business that you purchase, or a business that, a franchise that you become part of. So a couple of things that I want to visit with you about some of the biggest challenges a new owner faces, in your opinion. And a second part, how do we help and support those brand new owners with those challenges?
Yeah, great question. So you're right. It will never say it's easy, because it's a business model that's 24/7, 365, right? So people are aging constantly. People are having life events happen where they're going to need our services and need to reach out. So I think some of the biggest challenges for a new owner coming in is first understanding the industry, because the majority of our owners today, they haven't come from home care. Maybe they have some background in, maybe they were a nurse before on the medical side, but that really is more an exception than the norm. We have owners that come from all walks of life and have all different kind of experiences prior to coming to Right at Home. So first is kind of understanding, okay, what is this industry really all about? What's the lingo that is common as you go out into the community and start to talk about this thing called home care and private duty or family funded care? And what does that look like versus maybe they have experience with home health and some more of the Medicare side of things, because it's very different. So one is just kind of learning the language. And the way in which we get you comfortable with the business model is through what we call the RightStart process. So from the minute that you sign on, we're going to have a coach come alongside you, a RightStart manager come alongside you to help you work through this process. And as part of that is education. So there's online education, there's coming to Omaha and spending a week with us here in Omaha education. There's shadowing of an existing office, so you get a feel for what is the day-to-day life. All of that's encapsulated around how do we help you as quickly as possible get your business up and running, right? Once it's up and running, then we have coaches that stay with you for the entire time that you're associated with the Right at Home brand. So you'll always have a business performance coach there that I think of them as your key liaison into the organization. So we organize ourselves around centers of excellence. So we have subject matter experts in key elements of the entire business model. And your coach, while they are well-rounded in what it takes to run a business and can give you lots of guidance and bring you best practices from lots of different views, they may not be the one that in a particular topic can go really, really deep. So let's say, for example, you're really having a trouble with attracting caregivers and retaining caregivers. Then they would actually hook you up with one of our specialists that's in our centers of excellence around caregiver experience. And they can go really deep with you if you need to go deeper than what the general coach can provide. But the message being, we're here to walk alongside you every step of the way of your journey with the Right at Home brand, because our goal at the end of the day is to help give you guidance so that you can build a sustainable, profitable business.
Okay. So I just realized, thank you for that, Margaret. I just realized at this point, we've been talking about that it's not easy and it's going to be super challenging. And like, I'm sure listeners like, well, okay, so tell me the great things about it. Then why on earth would I do this? So I just want to say on the flip side, despite the fact that, this is a challenging business, it's not an easy business to be part of, but there is something about this business we've got over 700 locations all over the globe. We've been doing this for 25 years. We have lots of very happy franchise owners.
Very happy, yeah.
Doing something right. So what's the most rewarding thing about being a franchise owner with Right at Home? Despite the challenges and the ups and downs of this business, why would somebody want to franchise with Right at Home and become a Right at Home franchise owner? The rewarding aspects of this business.
Yeah, great question. And it's really the rewards outweigh any, daily challenges that might exist as you're, trying to fill shifts and working with caregivers and just the day-to-day mechanics of the business model. And it really is, I honestly can't think of another industry, and I'm of course very biased to the brand. I can't think of another brand where it's so connected to a purpose. And I think we talk a lot with our owners about their why and remembering their why, because the why gives you inspiration and excitement on great days. But even if you're having a challenging day, it's your why that really grounds you and gives you that energy to say tomorrow is a new day. And there's not enough words for me to describe the impact that you as a franchise owner in the Right at Home network will have on so many lives. It's not just the clients that you will provide services to, but it's the staff that you'll employ and the caregivers that will be the conduit to those clients that will create, exceptional experiences. I was just on a town hall right before joining this, where they were talking about mission moments. And that's just a great example of just little stories that have such massive impact in terms of what caregivers or office staff or franchisees are able to do for other human beings. That just is, they're like angels on earth, right? Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to be a consumer of Right at Home services with my mom back in 2019. And I've talked about this before with other audiences and just saying there's not enough words to describe the impact that local right at home had on my dad, my mom, certainly from a care perspective, but me and my sisters. I mean, there's not enough words because they truly brought something that nobody else could. And that's an amazing thing to be associated with. It really does drive that purpose is what is the energy and the fuel that keeps us all excited. And I love getting up and coming to work every day because of that.
Yes. And I want to add on to that, Margaret. There are many times where people inquire about right at home franchise ownership, and you called it their why. Sometimes I call it that person's compelling reason, why do you want to do this? There are some people that come to us and say, well, I'm just looking to purchase a franchise. I don't care what industry it's in. It's got to check these boxes. I'm going to hire somebody to run it anyway. And which we say, then right at home isn't the right fit for you. There are most certainly franchises out there that fit that criteria, but unfortunately, we aren't it. You've got to have that compelling reason. You have to have that why. It's such a big part of being a right at home franchise owner. Okay, so another thing that you said. So can you describe the right at home franchise owner that just absolutely thrives? We get, the ones that have found success in their own way. We have lots of people, 100% of the people who want to franchise with right at home, they don't say, I just want to do the bare minimum. Every single person who joins the right at home system says, I want to just crush it. I want to do so well in this business. I just want to grow, grow, grow. So can you describe to our listeners the right at home franchise owner that really, really thrives, whether it's their personality, their work ethic, engagement with their staff, with everyone here at the corporate level? What does the just top-notch right at home franchise owner who thrives, describe that person to me if you can?
Yeah, Jen, and it's really the things that you just kind of rattled off. So our most successful franchise owners are the ones that are absolutely engaged in the entire network. So not only are they passionate about their why, so they're in it for the right reasons, and they are always willing to learn. They're willing to adapt and change and adopt new approaches because, you may be recruiting caregivers one way today, and you're going to have to completely change because something shifted in the market and try a different way. And those top owners are willing to constantly say, how can I make this even better? How can I pivot? How can I change? They don't look at challenges as obstacles. They look at them as an opportunity to get creative, right? So they have the right mindset in recognizing that business isn't all rainbows and butterflies, but that they're very passionate about growing the business. And then they lean into, they don't come with a mindset of, well, I'm the business owner, so I'm going to know everything and I'm not going to be open. Because again, that's why you join a franchise network, is then you've got all these individuals that are in different stages of walking in the same shoes as you are, and they've stubbed their toe before. You can learn from them. Our most senior tenured owners still can come to like a home improvement and engage with the network and walk away with a nugget of something new and different to learn from. And they have that mindset. And that engagement, not only with the corporate office, but across the network with their neighbors in their state, in performance groups, which is a kind of small group program where they act like a board of directors. Those are all ways that it's that kind of engagement that are most successful owners. When I look at them in comparison to others that maybe aren't doing as well, it's that engagement level and commitment to staying connected.
And I just realized that I could have a completely separate Tuesday talk about all of the ways that we can help franchise owners stay engaged. And you said it, I wrote this down, engaged with the network. There are so many ways. I could make a full list and we could talk about it for a full 30 minutes, but you and I have 10 minutes left. So we have a question that came in, and so this is kind of off topic here, but most definitely relevant. You'll smile when I ask this question. What type of innovation has been introduced into the business in the last year? So that's what the question says. And then also, I know that if you can, without giving away too many inside secrets, maybe talk about some of the things that were thinking about as the future is ahead of us with technology and everything with AI, and man, there's so much happening as far as technology in the world right now. So some of the things that we've done this past year, and then even looking ahead a little bit into the future.
Yeah, great question. And I love talking about innovation. So we recognize that the industry is moving very fast. Healthcare is certainly changing very quickly. And I think the pandemic really exacerbated the pace in which things are changing because healthcare really had to operate differently with a lot of things shut down. And so did we. So we actually, part of our strategic plan, so we have a 3-year strategic roadmap that we talk about with the system and in our alignment with our franchise owners about what do we need to do to continue to evolve the brand, because we know that if you stay stagnant, you're actually going to start going backwards. So that's something that is not in our vocabulary. Stagnant is not in our vocabulary. So we've actually carved out, recognizing that innovation is going to be more and more important with this caregiver shortage. We've got to find ways in which we can bring value to that client or that client's family in ways that isn't always dependent on a caregiver being the home. So how can we supplement some care when the caregiver's not there, and or supplement when the caregiver is there with some additional elements that might help them deliver an exceptional experience to the client. So innovation is important. So we've carved out a specific team and invested in resources that all they think about is innovation around the business model and innovation around technology, because we know technology is going to play. We are getting in the process of moving into taking care of a completely different consumer, a boomer consumer, than what we have been taking care of in what we call the silence generation. So we also recognize that we've got to continue to adapt to what the consumer needs are. So from an innovation perspective, we are thinking about innovation around the business model and innovation around technology. So we've looked at lots of examples of technology, of things that could come in and help supplement, whether it's med reminder kinds of things and interactive kind of things, remote checking kinds of things. And we are constantly testing different elements, both doing that in our company-owned locations, which those are our test kitchens. So we started doing company-owned back in 2019, recognizing this pace of change. We need to be able to do that testing, taking lots of swings because we know we'll make misses, and not have to put that burden on the entire network. But we actually have a collaborative sub-task force around innovation for franchise owners that are really passionate about it, that engage with our innovation team. And then on the business model, we're constantly looking at, okay, where can we drive operational efficiency? So there's different things that we're looking at to say, could we do some call handling differently that perhaps creates a better experience for the caller, but also creates an operational efficiency for each of the franchise owners? Recognize that we want to make sure they have a healthy below the line cost structure that ensures that they have a healthy profit line at the end of the day, because we need and want our owners to build sustainable, profitable business.
Okay. All right. So a couple things that you mentioned, I'm going to ask you about specifically 3-year strategic plan. So I was talking to a potential franchise owner maybe a month or so ago, and he asked me, what are some of the things, how do you plan for the future? And what are some of the things that you're running? I'm like, I don't even know where to begin with that question, because we have done, and I've had a front row seat to all of the things that we have been working on over the course of the past, really heavily the past year, just to prepare for the future. And it's every department at the corporate headquarters level that is being held accountable to a specific plan that we are working on together as a team. So if you can just briefly describe, what are the main areas of focus, and why are those areas of focus so important to the growth and the future of Right at Home?
Yeah, so we really have 4 main areas when we think about our strategic plan. And we think our plan is 3 years, and it'll kind of be a rolling 3 years, because if you go beyond 3 years, things are changing so fast, it gets really, really fuzzy. And we even know that what we think is going to get us from here to 3 years out, that path, it's not going to be as straight as we maybe have it lined out when we first, are setting our objectives for the next year, because things will ebb and flow. But the 4 main areas are network growth, right? So we need to continually focus on helping each individual location continue to grow their business in hours. We need to increase our footprint because that allows us to bring the mission to a broader span of individuals that can benefit from it. And we know we need to continue to focus on caregivers. And so how do we continue to identify and retain great care workers that have that heart to be able to deliver the product that is the right at home way of providing home care. So growth is a key element. Another key element is that innovation that I just talked about, that we know that we need to constantly innovate with the changing market. We can't, sit back on our laurels and not recognize that things are changing. And with the caregiver shortage, how do we take what is the best of the best of combining some technology with the caregiver shortage in order to continue to bring value to the consumers. And then to do that, though, we know we need to have really good test kitchens. So we're also focused on expanding our company-owned footprint. So we have 10 locations today, and it's important to have those because, again, they serve as the playground for us to try lots of different things and not have to do that on a dime that the franchise owner is using to, feed their family and feed their staff's family and et cetera, et cetera. So really a way in which that we can invest some capital and try things. And once we have something that's working, then we can bring it to the broader network and give them the opportunity to learn from what we've learned. And then the fourth area is really around quality. We know that we have to continually focus on care quality and that operational discipline. So we think about, just the core fundamentals of the business model and knowing that we always need to be executing the fundamentals really well. And what does that look like? And what are initiatives that we can continue to bring forward with feedback from the system? And all of this is built with impact from the franchise network as a whole for us to ultimately elevate the brand and continue to grow.
And hey, Margaret, I will tell you this, maybe you know this, maybe not. I sat in on a session at Home Improvement that it was the company owned, best practices. And It was a packed house. That room was full of franchise owners. Are like, hey, tell us some of the things that you guys are doing that's working, that's not working. I even found it incredibly interesting. I'm like, I've learned so many new things. But anyway, it was a packed house and it was a great session.
Yeah.
But okay. Time flies when you're having fun. We have just a couple of minutes left. Is there any final words that you would like to tell our audience today? The audience of people that are potentially going to become right at home franchise owners. Any final parting words?
Yeah, I wish that I could bottle up the energy and just the positivity and excitement that came from last week's Home Improvement. I mean, it is just I walk away from there really just humbled again, and yet feel so blessed that I'm associated with this brand because it really is palatable, the heart that each and every individual has that's associated with the Right at Home brand and the collective desire to really improve the quality of life for those that we serve. And so it's a wonderful brand and a wonderful mission that is being delivered every day. And so if you're choosing if home care is your calling, then while again, I can be very biased, I would say you can't pick a better brand than Right at Home.
Yes, I agree. And something you said earlier, staying engaged with the network, that includes staying engaged with your fellow franchise owners. So I am walking away from Home Improvement, meeting a lot of franchise owners that I've never met before, but general consensus, we have, again, I'm biased, some of the most amazing franchise owners, totally energized, networking with each other. And if you become a Right at Home franchise owner, you're going to get access to all of your fellow franchise owners where, the peer-to-peer, franchisee to franchisee relationship is absolutely key to running your business. You want to hear from your fellow franchise owners on what works and what doesn't. And Home Improvement was just a testament to, everybody getting together in the same place and having a great time.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. Thank you so much for this, Margaret. This was awesome.
My pleasure.
Let's do this again in a couple weeks.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. And Margaret, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Okay.